the biggest moments when you shit yourself are the ones that get you so much further ahead. They're 10-year leaps. When you get that nervous, it's when you get that growth. That energy translates into adrenaline, and if you stay on that path, you never come back. Like, I've got this saying, like, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I make shit happen, and nothing can get in my way. Hey guys, Marty Fox here, and I'm at the Club of United Businesses here in Melbourne, about to speak to some of their members about all things White Fox, Marty Fox, and the block. So very excited to connect with the crew and put on a great show, and then a live Q&A and a bit of mingling afterwards. A friend of mine started this business many years ago, I think about 7-8 years ago, and it's great to see what it was started from to where it is now, being one of the best business clubs across Australia. So very happy to be here and look forward to seeing the members very soon.
Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have the Marty Fox, founder of WHITEFOX Real Estate, join us today for our fireside chat. We're just going to jump straight in because I know I've got a lot of eager members that want to hear from you. They don't want to hear from me. So, Marty, let's
get into it.
Let's get into it.
And then a Q&A at the end as well,
Absolutely.
Yeah? Beautiful. Off cuff.
Can you take us back to the very beginning?
To the very beginning.
What was it about what drew you into real estate, let's say?
Okay, is anyone in real estate in this room? Few people. I don't think anyone actually grows up wanting to be a real estate agent, and that was the case for me. So I actually went to university in Dunedin, small little town in New Zealand. Any Kiwis in the room? One at the back. With a good mo. That is a good mo. So I remember coming home from school, I would have been 15, and Mum said, we're moving to New Zealand. And I just said, you're kidding me. When? And where is, like, I knew nothing about it. So 2 weeks later, we landed in New Zealand, and essentially I started at school, and I finished school, and I was going to move back to Melbourne, where my dad was a hairdresser, and become a hairdresser with him. Mum said, no, you're not. And I said, well, try stop me. And she said, watch yourself. And I said, all right, well, if you come to uni with me, I'll go to uni and we'll go together. And she enrolled into medicine, I enrolled into commerce. I ended up moving back here, but it was the GFC, so I could not get a job in accounting or in marketing because all the graduate positions weren't available. So I fell into real estate like most people do. And then 10 years later, my mum ended up becoming a flying doctor in the outback. So it was a really amazing experience moving to New Zealand, changed my life. But my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, met her at the SB on one of those summer trips back to see Dad. She was 17, I was 18. Now we've got 3 kids now. Her dad owned Wilson Pride. So does anyone remember Wilson Pride? Yeah, really good agency, big boutique, 52 offices in Melbourne, and they sold out to Century 21. So that was Century 21's first expansion into the Australasian market. And we went to a family dinner, and he offered me a job, and I said, no, I'm not going to be a land rat. And after about 3 weeks of pitching to me, I ended up saying yes, and it was, I think, the best thing I've ever done. So yeah, that's what got me into it. And then what was the question? What was it like?
Yeah, what was it like?
Yeah, look, it was pretty tough because I think a lot of people that get into real estate, if it wasn't their option, and they were either forced into it for financial reasons or because they didn't have another choice. I struggled for the first few years. Like, I felt like a bit of a failure, that I couldn't get a job in what I studied, and there was this thing of going to parties. I was 21 and I'd be meeting people, and a lot of the guys back in New Zealand would hang showing me that I studied with that went to London to be accountants at PwC, and I felt like my back was against the wall, and I honestly did feel like I wasn't living to the expectations that I had of myself. So yeah, the first few years were hard, and I think a lot of people that get into real estate, 9 out of 10 fail. That's the reality. And in the first year, grab it, I'll answer it. Could be a deal. A lot of people probably don't know, but in that first year, I saw a lot of issues in the market because the first homeowners grant came in 2009, and people were buying properties like no tomorrow. And I was working in St Kilda, so this was a huge apartment market, and we were getting 60, 70 people that open for inspections. And what I hated, if I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. Like, that's a big trait of mine. My word is my word, and I follow through. So I was meeting all these people saying, I'll get back to you, I'll follow you up, but I actually physically could not get back to everyone. So that started playing on my mind. I read Richard Branson's book in Thailand, first overseas holiday, 21 with Charlotte, and I came back, the iPad came out, I read the book, and a friend of a friend's son started a company called B2 Cloud, and his name was Luke Smorgan, and they were building apps. And I went, oh shit, this can solve my problem. Because I'm writing everyone's name, number, email on a pad. I can't get back to everyone. I'm selecting who I think the buyer is, and I'm missing all of these potential vendors who are researching agents. So for about $6,000, I built the first ever open for inspection software, and I was their first client. And you've probably seen them in the AFR. They ended up selling out and made an absolute mozza. But 6 months after I built that app, I actually sold it to the REIV, which is the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, for $1 million. And that's when I had that first sense of, shit, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm successful, I've done it. And the real basis of that was, up until that point in time, I'd probably lived in about 50, 60 properties. Mum and Dad had me at a very young age, 19, 20, moved around a lot, both had been married 3 times each, and Charlotte and I just wanted to not be tenants and be kicked out. She had similar type of upbringing. So for us, it was like, we got to buy a property. And doing that exit, I didn't buy the Porsche 911, bought a house in South Yarra, bought a house in Port Melbourne, and that's when Charlotte and I started becoming property flippers. So very early on we did that. I left the industry after 1 year in it. And if you ask Charlotte today, when's the first time you've ever seen Marty depressed? It was when I took the job, high paying salary, I had heaps of free time, and I'd clock off at 5 o'clock and I felt so empty. I wasn't chasing. It was a weird feeling. And for those 2 years, I was flat as a tack. So I got back into real estate and re-pitched to Charlotte's dad and said, look, I'm coming back, but I need to have my own office. So at 23 and a half, 24, I opened my own office. That's what got me back into the game.
So before founding WHITEFOX, what gap or frustrations did you see in the industry that made you believe there was a room for a new approach?
So the great thing with Touchbase was I travelled all over Australia selling software into real estate companies. So my biggest clients were Kane Burton, little mum and dad, businesses that had 4 staff, to the biggest agencies in WA. I did a talk at Uluru once, teaching the top 1% of real estate agents how to use software to their advantage. So I got this insider, I just got exposed to so many businesses and realised that at the end of the day, you were either a small boutique that was state-based, or you were a big franchise that really couldn't control the narrative in the offices. Because when you're a franchise, you hand over the reins of decision-making. You're giving a brand, you're giving a manual, and then those people have the autonomy to get whichever suppliers they want, train their teams however they want. You're at arm's length. So what I saw, and I would have been, again, early 20s, I actually wrote down WHITEFOX at 21 in the second week of working at Graham's business. I wrote it down, and I'll come back to the story about franchises and boutiques. I wrote WHITEFOX down. I showed 2 people, one my wife and one the receptionist that worked at the St Kilda office. And when I opened WHITEFOX in 2017, she sent me a DM and she said, "Monster, you did it." Wow. It was crazy. So when I was doing Touchbase, what I saw was that there was small boutiques that had no reach, and then there was franchises that had no family feel, which was really appealing in the boutiques that I worked with. And I thought to myself, once I'm ready to go, I will aim to build a global boutique. That was in my head. And that's what sort of planted the seed. The combination of the two, the strengths of each.
Can you share the moment you realised WHITEFOX wasn't just an idea, but something that you were ready to fully commit to?
Yeah, once I knew that the business could survive based on my output. So I knew that I had to become an elite agent. So I would have been mid to late 20s, every month producing at least $250,000 in fees, with a brand that was pretty bad. So after Century 21, they didn't renew the license. They then rebranded to a boutique, family boutique called Wilson, which I ended up owning 33% of. And I knew that if I could write $250,000 a month, month in, month out, sitting in Balaclava under a train bridge next to Lush Chickas in an area where I'm not Jewish, then I knew that I could then get WHITEFOX going. And if it was just me in there, it would make sense. So I think any business person needs to realise that if they go out on their own, if the worst case scenario is that it makes more financial sense just for them alone, then great. But obviously there was a lot more behind that because I saw a gap in the market to really break the back. And Melbourne's the hardest market to penetrate in the luxury space. Melbourne's the only city in the world that sells as much property via auction than any other city on the planet, which means that everyone's an expert because anyone can just waltz in and watch auctions, which is why buyer advocacy has been a really hard business to get off the ground in Melbourne. And also, we're a city dominated by strong boutiques, really strong boutique brands. Franchises struggle. You don't see Ray White and Toorak, but you'll see Ray White and Double Bay. So to crack Melbourne meant that if I could do that, I knew that I could go into other states and territories and give a really red hot crack.
Absolutely. So White Fox launched with a very distinct brand point of view. How did you craft that brand identity and what did you want it to represent?
Someone that was bullied heavily in school, obviously 7 different schools. Dad dropped me off for a few years on the back of a bike to schools like, Geelong Grammar and stuff like that. That's a big thing when you got kids getting dropped off in the back of ranges and stuff. So for me, it was saw the bullying at school, saw the bullying even as an owner in my own business from one of my partners. When social media started coming out and I wanted to do social media and call auctions and not wear ties and do things that would stand out, do sold text boards and say, 7 agents failed, Marty Fox nailed, all those sorts of things that got clickbait. They hated it. So, there was corporate bullying, there was bullying from school, and I just saw that if we could create an environment that would promote the individual but have an extremely strong brand above it, we would empower people to do business with people that resonated with them. And that's the reality. Like, if any of us in this room meet a customer, the chances are, if we're good at what we do, we're going to appeal to 7 out of 10. That's the reality. You cannot convince everyone to, one, like you or do business with you. So for me, I just wanted to increase the probability of transaction, but also everyone was suited and booted in 2017. No one was doing social media. No one had an internal productions arm, and no one had a distinct tone of voice. Nike has it, just do it. All these other brands have it, but yet no one in real estate had it. So I sat with who I believed at the time, and they were at the time, and they still are unbelievable at what they do. I pitched the idea of a new style of agency to a company called Willow and Blake. Does anyone know Willow and Blake? Amazing. So Willow and Blake are incredible founders, strong women.
One of our members.
Oh, really?
Yep.
How crazy.
Jess is here.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Jess is a legend. So I actually pitched the idea to them and they weren't convinced, so they said no. However, one of the guys in the room, one of their senior staff members, put his little finger up and said, I'll do it. And they said, all right, you can do it, but you need to do it outside of work hours. So I ended up meeting this guy for a coffee every day, and his name's Aidan Hathaway. And we sat at Top Paddock. Told him about how I wanted to drop the suit, wanted to do crazy auctions, wanted to do this amazing production level in social media. And he was into it. And he said, we need to start with the tone of voice. The tone of voice is how people perceive you for the feeling, because the visual is what they see, the sound is what makes them feel this thing. So the tone of voice was important. And we built the pillars around the deal, obvious and seals the deal. And it's stuck ever since. The black and white photo, the high level, architectural photography, the productions in the video content and social media. And that was really it. I remember the first 2 years, again, the bullying came back. I'd be sitting I'll never forget, I was sitting having a schnitzel sandwich on Toorak Road, and this Range Rover drives past, windows down. Marty Fox, that deal. Yeah. So it was, but it was catchy and it stood out. And the tone of voice has been one of the most important things for us as a brand. And when you combine a strong tone of voice and a strong visual identity, that's how you create a brand. And the biggest thing is to not break. So the amount of times we'd get a call from a vendor and they'd say, the house hasn't sold, you got to change that black and white photo. And I'd say, no, I'm not changing it. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I've paid for the marketing, blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, I'm sorry, but it's not changing. You can give it to another agent. So having the guts to push back revenue when you need it so desperately is the key. If you break your brand's pillars, or you break your own pillars just as a person in a relationship, a marriage, a friendship, whatever it might be, then be prepared to have to mop up the shit that you leave behind by not staying strong.
Well, that was good. That was strong. Can you share some of the biggest challenges that you faced in the first 12 months of business on how you navigated your way through them?
The biggest thing, and again, these questions, like, it takes you back down memory lane, which you don't get to do often, so it's great. It's kind of like therapy. It's like live therapy. But essentially, it's just breaking through the negativity. And you just, the business owners in this room, you know that there's negativity. You know that people will say things to try and throw you off course, or you'll have people that come in that love being in the small business when there's 5 of you, and then it gets to 30 and then they leave. Or, I had one of the biggest, writers of revenue leave after 12 months, and you think, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what have I done? Like, I've invested all this time and energy. So for me, the biggest memories of pushing through were sticking to those pillars. So just the belief in what it is that you're doing, blocking out the noise of the negativity, and just not stopping. Like, I've got this saying, like, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. I make shit happen and nothing can get in my way. And if you've got that mentality, you're going to be fine, because you need to go back to what it was at the beginning. You did it because if it was just you, it made sense. And where people get carried away is they overlap it with too heavy growth too early on, and it's the expenses that blow out. So one of the big things, what was that question?
Your early, how did you navigate the challenges?
Okay.
12 months.
All right. So one of those big challenges was also COVID, because COVID hit at 3 years. 3 years is when you start getting momentum. So instead of shitting my pants and getting rid of staff, I went back to university days and thought, who's the smartest cookie I knew from uni? And it was this guy, Rory Stumbles, who I met on my first day at school there. And I called Stumbles and I said, mate, what are you doing? Where are you? And he was in London working on the Candy Crush merger, the deal, $4 billion deal, crazy accountant. And I said, mate, I think I need a CFO, because this COVID thing is weird. I'm just cracking over sort of like 3 million revenue. I actually don't need you, but I think if we navigate this, it'll get to the point where we're a big, big company. I can't afford you, but if we set some KPIs together, in 3 years' time, in 2023, I'll open in New Zealand with you, and we'll partner up in that country. And he said, crazy timing, because our other best mate, who started a supermarket chain, pitched him to be the CFO of his new supermarket in New Zealand. And I was like, oh shit, he's going to go with Devo. He'd always go out with Devo over me. And he chose me, and we ended up launching New Zealand in 2023. So I think that was a very, very big decision for us that steered us in the right direction. Having someone that's the yin to your yang. Very different people.
You're known for having a strong high-performance culture. How did you cultivate that from day one?
Culture from day one has been a massive thing. I even had a 2-hour talk today with one of my partners in, I won't say the state in case he ever watches this. Oh, I've already said he. So all the female partners know it's not them. Culture's massive, and I think with culture, it's based out of believing in people and giving them autonomy to make the right decisions, but within a really structured framework. So for us, I only need 2 meetings a week, right? This is when I was running offices, as in running salespeople. Now I'm obviously not running the day-to-day, but giving structure to these agents and to the leader to have an opportunity to speak. So 2 meetings, sales meeting where you're running all the financials and you're going over past tense, what's actually happened the week prior, and during those discussions, pointing at the issues. So I went back to when I was working in that other environment with 30 people in those sales meetings, and what my father-in-law would do is he would point out when I'd make a mistake and he'd correct me in that setting. And with all those eyeballs on me, 1, it was uncomfortable, but 2, I'd try my fucking hardest to not make that same mistake again. So I then went, okay, well, instead of it being in that more hectic environment, how about we do it in an environment where it's really about the learning and the team can see what needs to be done moving forward. So the sales meeting, your team meeting on a Monday to set up the week, unbelievably important. And then in 2021, we brought in the weekly huddle. And the weekly huddle is genuinely at the front of every office in a huddle. And I started this in Hawkesburn, just near the corner of Mathura Road and Malvern Road, in a circle. And you'd stand there and you'd go around, and the simplest huddle was highlight of the week, low light of the week, and what's something that you're currently struggling with, and the code's going to get cracked now as a team. Professional, personal, doesn't matter. And the reason why that works at White Fox is because every office is less than 10 people, which is very different to any other real estate brands, because our reach is in location, not bums on seats. So another very strategic play. Only works if you own all the offices, which we do. So the huddle was an idea that I got from a friend of mine that worked very high up at Lululemon. And Lululemon was renowned for this culture of inclusion and all these amazing codes getting cracked as a team. And what would happen at that one office, this is when we had 2 offices, and I had to close one office, lock the door because I lost so many staff. So then the 2 offices that we had ended up going into one office, but I was paying rent on 2. This is 2021. This isn't that long ago. It's crazy. And people that would be on their morning commute would see once a week these crazy agents standing out the front on the street in a huddle. And we got business out of it. And people would talk about it. And then it ended up filtering through every single office on a Thursday at 8:30 or 9. So how you keep the culture is the consistency, and then the non-micromanagement, but the really strong frameworks around everything that you do. There is no grey area at White Fox. Over 130 staff, there's only 3 people that have an EA. And that's because everyone that when they get hired, here's another one, is the collective hiring policy. So I can't go and hire someone for one of my offices. I can identify talent, which I'm the biggest talent scout in the business. I'm constantly looking at talent. I then find that person. I have an initial FaceTime. I put him in touch with the sales director of the office and say, I think this guy or girl is a real winner. Let's have a chat. Then they meet that person. That person has to get 6 yeses from the company to come in, which is essentially giving shareholder rights to non-shareholders. So like a few weeks ago, we had Imogen Stokes, who works at Albert Park, and she was in an interview for a woman 15 years her senior, and she was given the ability to veto the decision to hire this person. Do you know how much that empowers like your team, where they can protect their environment? Because if you've got the wrong egg in the system, it can actually ruin someone else's experience. So yeah, there's a few things over the years, and anytime I get a nugget, like my nugget might be from overhearing one of you guys talk, or might be from a book, or it might be from a friend at Lululemon. The ideas can come from anywhere, and they're normally the best ones, the ones that are from outside of your industry.
You mentioned searching for talent.
What stands out to you when you are looking to hire an agent or bring them on part of the team?
Depending on what tier they are. So this year we started tiering agents. Tiering agents based on their ability to generate revenue and their time and game. They're 2 very big pillars. So for us, in a business where the office works as the team, there's a thing happening in real estate now where people are building teams within offices. And for me, it doesn't make sense. It actually creates competition. You know, team this person, team that person. And the business convinces those agents to get an EA, a buyer's agent, a prospector, all these things. And for me, it's a bit of a Ponzi scheme. It doesn't stack. It might stack for the guys right at the top, but it creates a lot of competition. It creates, I think, just a lot of issues. So for us and for our business model, if you've got an office that has less than 10 people, they grade themselves on employment. So you ask them, how many years in the game have you been? What are you generating in fees? Are you a tier 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? So if they're a tier 7, they're a managing director, they're doing $1 million plus in fees, and they've got 9 years experience. So you know what you can get out of them and what the business can provide in exchange for that. If you've got a junior coming in, they're a tier 1. They're doing less than $250,000. They've got less than 2 years experience, which means that the expectations on them drops. So instead of putting pressure on them for not getting a listing, it's cool. They might bring in 3 or 4 listings that year, but they're running a lot of files, opens, prep, they're in listings, they're listening, and they're doing a lot of the grunt work that a Tier 4 may not do, which in some businesses, I know that a Tier 4 agent, in our terms, might not go do the letterbox drop because they think it's beneath them. But because the business hasn't been structured in a way that supports that person, because there's all these different teams, how do you know they get done? So there's just little things that I identified over the years through hiring people, and I think self-assessment on hiring people is really key. Get them to tell you where they sit, because then at least you know how to then guide them into the next growth path.
Self-assessment, I like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's honestly, it's so good, because what happens, like for 7 years I was hiring people, they were all called the exact same thing. They were all an advisor and negotiator, and they'd see all these deals dropping in the WhatsApp and they'd get upset because they thought that they're underperforming. But underperforming for who? So for instance, every month when I run a town hall, there's different sections on the town hall. Obviously, the biggest riders for the year to date, Jan to December, based on GCI, which is gross closed commissions. But then there's another section, which is who's the best performing agent pound for pound. There's a reason why the heavyweight champion of the world, right, will happily shake hands with the lightweight champion of the world, because there's this mutual respect that they're high performers in their weight class. So in January, we ask every agent, or if they start this month, we ask them, what do you think you'll do over a 12-month window, right? And then that becomes their weight class for the month. So in the town hall, the leader sometimes is one of the juniors, because they've outperformed their ability, time and game, and what their targets were. So again, assessing people for where they are is unbelievably important for culture and for building that morale.
How would you say your leadership style has evolved as the company has grown?
Fuck, I was the hottest head you've ever seen. I was just constantly yelling and screaming. My dad's Serbian, my mum's from Northern Ireland, so madman. You have to calm down when you're responsible for so many people. And when you start proving yourself right, and when people start respecting you for the work that you've done, it starts to calm down, because you're like, oh, fuck, finally, they don't think that I'm crazy, or they don't think that I'm some, fly by the seat of my pants type operator. So when you're in fight or flight, which is what I was for many, many years, it's exhausting. When you're building a business, having 3 kids and trying to stay fit and healthy, you burn the candle and socialise, going out, not being a gimp at home, drinking cups of tea. So when you're trying to do it all, you break. So what was the question? I'll just answer what I want to answer. So I'm driving.
How's it changed?
Yeah, how's it changed? So we're driving along Ormond Esplanade in Elwood, and it was 2021. And I went to Charlotte. My wife's a cardiothoracic nurse at the Alfred, and I said, oh, fuck, bub, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she goes, oh, fuck, you're having a panic attack. I said, no, I think I'm actually dying. Anyway, my hands were sweaty, and I was like, oh my God, we've got to get home. And she was just laughing at me. So we get home, I run upstairs, we're on Beaconsfield Parade, and I lay down. My mum, as you know, I FaceTime, and she goes, holy shit, what's wrong? I was like, what do you mean? And I just went into panic mode. She goes, you're as white as a ghost. I said, Mum, I think I'm having a heart attack. So she said, call the ambulance. Ambulance came. I was unvaccinated at this point in time, and I got rushed to hospital. They put the ECG on, they said, we've got to go to the Cabrini. So I get to the hospital. I'm in there for 3-4 days, and I've got like severe pericarditis, which was a side effect from some of the vaccines, but I was unvaccinated. So the cardiologist said, were you scheduled to get the jab? And I said, yes, in like 3 days. And she said, thank God you didn't, because it could have been catastrophic. You've got a heart infection and you've got a severe one. So I then got on the meds, and it was to the point where I could not sit up. So has anyone in this room had pericarditis? Imagine a chest infection, which gives you the shits. Imagine a heart infection. It is like pins in your heart constantly. Like, it's the most hectic pain. And when you get up and you go vertical, it just like doubles down. So I laid flat for close to 6 months at home. And this is as the business like started to do really well through COVID, like because we were a digital brand, we had great production, blah, 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 blah. And I helped get us open with what I was coming up with rules of engagement for real estate. It was bad timing. And at the time, we had deals going. Like my wife and I flippers, and we were in the biggest flip of our career, a 6th arch Victorian terrace on Beangsville Parade, who I ended up selling to the GM of Pfizer. Can you believe it? And broke a record for the suburb. You can't script it. You literally can't script it. So anyway, I called the 3 people that had been with me the longest, Mike DiCasio, Lana Samuels and Pete Service, agents. They came over and I said, guys, you can't be called directors, but you need to have weight in the market. I'm going to call you sales directors so that ASIC doesn't pull us up. But you got to run the teams. I need your help. I'm fucked. And that was the start of me getting off the tools. And off the back of that illness, I never got back into listing and selling really. I became full-time CEO. So had I not gotten sick, I would not have got myself out because I was writing $3 million a year. I loved listing and selling, connecting, meeting people. But if I didn't get sick, I wouldn't have transitioned to a CEO at 34.
Wow.
Yeah. So to answer the question, what changes? You have to realise in that CEO capacity, things aren't happening in a week. And when you're in real estate, every week things are changing. When you're running a business, it takes a little longer. So for me, I had to adapt myself to not having that deal energy. The endorphin of putting deals together was very different. And then you had to understand that if I was expecting here, I had to get used to knowing that my 100%, right, is probably going to be delivered to 70%, but the marketplace will probably not tell the difference. And being okay at accepting that no one's going to be me. They're not going to run to my standard, my pace, and everything that comes with that, which is why I'm the founder. It's why I'm the CEO. And understanding that you can't put pressure on these people to get to this level is the biggest thing. So just maturing into knowing that different strokes for different folks. Some people want to be $1 million agents. Some people want to be $400,000 agents. Some people want to be $100,000 agents. There is a place for everyone. It's just getting comfortable with knowing how they sit and making sure that they're in a good spot. So for me, it was really maturing and having kids. You have 3 kids and all of a sudden I really calmed the fuck down.
Puts everything into perspective.
100%.
Yeah. Let's take it back to marketing. We know that White Fox's marketing is bold, it's distinctive.
Bold, polished and matter of fact. They're the pillars.
Polished and matter of fact.
So if it's not bold and stands out, I'm not doing it. If it's not polished, if it's not put together beautifully, it ain't going out. And if it's not matter of fact, if it's hard to understand and you can't wrap your head around it, it ain't going out. Clear communication, bold so that it grabs your attention, and done to a high standard so that people go, shit, that's hot. That's with people and everything.
Because I was going to say, well, what role do you think branding has played in the business's success?
Well, it started with branding. Mm-hmm. So the DNA of White Fox was that your house is automatically more expensive when it's with White Fox because of the pillars. If attention is a currency, and if we own... So online, if you haven't seen the brand, every photo, like the listing, is black and white. So the study that we did, well, it was actually REA that did the study, but there was a 178% higher click rate onto a White Fox listing than any other company in Victoria. Not because, it's literally because of the attention. Because they go, black and white, click. We see it every day, but someone that's buying and selling might do it every 4 to 7 years. They just click because they're intrigued. And then they get sucked into the rest of the marketing, which is comparable to every other brand. But when you combine that black and white, a painted archboard, a tone of voice, so there's no headlines on the ads, there's no beautiful, majestic Victorian or, fixer-upper, fucking extraordinaire. It always just says the deal. So they go the deal, the black and white, the archboard. There's all of these things that are memorable, and that adds value. And we did a campaign in January of this year, which went national. It was on the Today Show and I had Carl Stefanovic coming at me, and I was like, come on, mate, settle down. I'm on your team. We're at 9. The billboard was in Perth and it said White Fox, making homes more expensive since 2017. Oh. And shit popped off. everyone's like, how can you say this? It's a cost of living crisis, blah, 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 blah. But it's funny because everyone wants to protect the purchaser. Who has sympathy for the person that's worked hard, not gone out and had those fancy meals, saved, got the mortgage, paid the repayments on that and held on to that? They need as much money as possible. We are engaged by the seller to get as much money as possible. Like, it ain't that hard to understand. So for me, when I'm getting attacked on national TV and people are in uproar about this billboard, I'm thinking, you must be as dumb as dog shit. But you must. Because imagine if the billboard was selling homes for next to nothing. Like, I'm sorry, but that is backward. It was a great campaign.
Well, this might kind of like a nice segue into this question. What has been one of the most effective defining marketing campaigns or plays that you've executed?
That was a big one. And I think sticking true to those things that seem so little insignificant, like a black and white photo, or when I was out for dinner with Charlotte and she said 3 years ago, I think you need to change the boards. And the boards were amazing. The boards were one photo and it was diced up and it was really architectural looking. It was like a chopped up photo. That was the for sale board on properties. And she just asked the waitress or waiter for a little napkin and she drew this arch and she said, I think it needs to kind of look like a window into the house. And she drew it and like, ping, brain just went off. And then had it designed and it's now so synonymous with sellers in the marketplace. And again, it's just another thing that we own.
The window touch is epic.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And the thing is, it's a brand that's extremely feminine. Like, females love White Fox, the aesthetic, the palette. Most of these bigger brands are dark and heavy and masculine. And at the end of the day, the blokes aren't making most of the decisions. So for us, it's been a real play. It's worked.
Love it.
So you're widely recognised now as a judge on the block. How did that opportunity come about and what's that experience been like behind the scenes?
The block's funny, eh? Crazy. Like, what a whirlwind. Like I'm on TV. It's pretty weird. You know what I mean? Like, listing and selling properties and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're on TV. It's quite surreal still. But for me, it's great because it doesn't require a lot of prep. It's a one-taker. People don't realise that I literally rock up, talk. I don't get a second crack at it. It's all off cuff. Genuinely, just you roll in. And what happened was when we opened the Brighton office and it was COVID, the 5 contestants did the interviews and we got an interview. Myself and Lana Samuels, my sales director. And we got appointed with Harry and Tash. And I remember it was the morning of, it was COVID, so it wasn't massive crowds. And that year I'd started calling auctions in shorts and Gucci slides. And it was pretty different. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I called Mum, it was like 36 degrees. And I said, hey, this is like my first big sort of dance on TV. What should I wear? She goes, what are you talking about? I was like, well, what should I wear? She goes, fucking, would you just pick your balls up and just go as Marty Fox? And I was like, should I wear the shorts and then the slides? And she goes, fuck yes. So I put the shorts and slides on, and I remember driving in, and I had the car packed, and it was this brand new 911 that I just picked up, which I'd wanted ever since I was a little kid. And I've driven into the set, and I've seen all the other auctioneers, and they're all congregated in one of the garages, and they're all in navy suits. And they looked terrible. Not that anyone in a navy suit here looks shit. I'm looking at you. You look great. And you're giving me good fucking vibes too. You're picking up what I'm putting down. And anyway, I was like, oh, fuck. This is crazy. Parked up the car, jumped out, and I just remember looking at the Channel 9 execs and looking at the creators of the show, and they were just like, yes. This is so good for TV. And anyway, I rolled out. I knocked it down to Danny Wallace, who now has sold like 8 properties with us. Like, Danny's our guy now. And it was a great auction. Then they asked me back the following year. I turned it down in my style. And then the following year, they asked to do it again, and I really liked the contestants, and we did it. And it was another really good result. Again, sold it to Danny. And then what happened after that? That was when Adrian Patelli first came on the scene. Then I ended up, this was after I became a CEO, and I was really struggling. So I had imposter syndrome in year one of being a CEO, sitting at this desk, not going out and about, not meeting people, not growing my network. Revenue had obviously dipped by 3 million because I went cold turkey. So again, if I say I'm going to do something, I stick to it. So I was 3 million short that year. And yeah, I was in a real state. So the team got together, they called Charlotte and they said, hey, we're going to send Marty away. And this was after the block auctions, towards the end of the year. Maybe about a month and a half after the block auctions. And they sent me on a week-long getaway with no phone to a place called Gwingana. You heard about Gwingana? Yeah. Full of some cats, like some hectic cats. I was like, whew. I didn't realise what I was walking into. And no meat, no phones, no this, no that. And it was a health retreat for people that were cooked, either extremely traumatised or genuinely burnt out. And I read this book, the Nike Founder book. Unbelievable. If you haven't read that book, go read Shoe Dog. God, it was like, changed my life. Amazing. Like the Richard Branson type thing back when I was 21. There's been some books that have like been very pivotal in my life, and this Shoe Dog was one of them. And it's funny because the guy that actually came up with the idea to send me there, his name was Shoe.
No way.
Yeah, crazy. G'day, Shoey. Of which I dropped a pizza oven to his house this morning. Weird. So I do this Gwingana thing, and then I came back and I turned my phone on because you have to put the phone away. And the day that I checked into Gwingana was the day the founder of the block sent me a voicemail saying, Marty, I need to see you urgently. I've ghosted him for a week. So I shat myself, called him straight away, said, hey mate, sorry, I've been off grid camping. And yeah, I don't think I was losing my mind because I was. And I said, mate, what's up? And he goes, I need to see you urgently. I was like, all right, well, I'll be back in Melbourne tomorrow. And he goes, fantastic, what do you drink? And here I am, like all kumbaya-y, not wanting to touch any alcohol or anything. And I was like, I don't know, just bring whatever. So he comes over the next day. I called Mum, I was like, Mum, you've got to be here. Something's going down. So Mum comes over, Charlotte's over, kids are running around. It was this beautiful, beautiful day. And Jules rocks up, knocks on the door. He's got the Pinot in his hand and he's like, g'day, mate. He's really softly spoken, genius, beautiful man. And comes in, small talk with Mum, blah, 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 blah. He goes, should we have a drink? Open it up, go out to the tree at the back. Lucky bean tree. I have a tree in my house which is literally called, if you look up its scientific name, it's this long, crazy name, and it has a nickname called the lucky bean tree. And my birth name, I'm going in segues here, my birth name is Marty Pasula, which is my father's name. My mum's Fox. Pasula translates to bean. I am Mr. Bean in Serbian. So anyway, we're sitting under the lucky bean tree. And he goes, Marty, back when we did the block with Jamie Jury and blah, 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 and the first judge was actually a real estate expert. And we're really missing that. And that real estate expert was John McGrath. And you know what ended up happening with John. Grew offices, profile, blah, 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 blah. He said, mate, I want you to be the next judge. And it's going to change your life. And I was like, when do you want me to start? He goes, you don't need to think about it? I said, mate, of course not. I'm not going to make you sweat. I'm in. And he was like, well, we kick off in about 3 weeks. And I was just like, here we go. And that was really hard. But I loved it because like becoming a CEO, like getting on the block, like opening in New Zealand, like now opening in Dubai, the biggest moments when you shit yourself are the ones that get you so much further ahead. They're 10-year leaps. When you get that nervous, it's when you get that growth. That energy translates into adrenaline, and if you stay on that path, you never come back. You keep compounding. So for me, it was another one of those opportunities that I grabbed and I think delivered on.
Absolutely. Tell me, do you ever feel pressure to balance the Marty Fox brand with the White Fox brand, or do you think that they're one and the same?
Well, there's actually no balance or struggle because they're both honest. Mm-hmm. They're both there. You have to be prepared to put up with the fight at the beginning. So if you're going to uniquely be yourself or let your brand speak its truth, just be prepared to defend it until you're deemed successful, and then you get the fruits of that labour and that heartache and that pressure. That's the reality. So if you're going to be bold enough to stand out, be prepared to fight back. Be prepared to stand your ground and do not cave. And then you get to the point where if things go the way that you hoped that they went, it becomes easier. And now for me, it's becoming easier.
Love that. As most of our members here would know, yourself included, building a business is demanding. What personal habits or routines help you stay grounded and high performing?
I think the pericarditis thing was a big thing. When I had kids, I said, okay, I'm not going to do any recreational drugs. As soon as I had my son, I was like, I'm done in terms of just being loose, going out and all that sort of stuff. So I had him at 29, making sure that I had, really good comms. Like when we went into COVID, I started doing for the first time ever marriage counselling, like full on, but unbelievable. I met this amazing Indian lady at Gwingana who was a psychologist. Again, never seen a psychologist. So I started locking her in like just once a month to just talk to. Unbelievable. Changed my life again. And again, not changed it because it was bad. It empowered it even more. Like, it was like going to the gym for my brain. It was like making me smarter. I could run little tests and change my response in certain situations that Charlotte wouldn't see coming, and the outcome would be even better. It's like literally training for your brain. So I just started doing things that would make me better. Going to the gym, little things. Your body changes as you get older. I had 4 operations last year. Had this throat thing, I lost a gallbladder, I got a double hernia. All these little things started happening, and again, you age, you change. So you got to just do things. How I was maybe going out in my 20s, I didn't do once I became a dad. The training that I was doing with like CrossFit or heavy lifting and all these sorts of things that I was doing at 30, I can't do it 39. You know what I mean? Like there's things that you do have to adapt, and the biggest thing is age. That for me has just been the key, like reading the play on what I can and actually can't do, and not thinking that I'm Superman.
Lastly, before we move on to...
The thing that I've just started though is I've been a keto for about 8 weeks.
How's that going?
Unreal. Yeah. So I did a blood test and my blood sugars were through the roof. And they're like, God, mate, you're like pre-diabetic. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I look pretty bloody good. and the doctor was like, I can't believe like how bad you are on the inside. I was like, fuck those cupcakes. And so, and I love spuds. I'm half Irish. I'm from Armagh. Like, carbs, they're bad. So anyway, I was like, the inflammation on the inside was like lethal. So yeah, just little things. Amazing. Like, go get bloods done all the time. I mean, not all the time, but like 3 times a year, just go get your bloods done.
Lastly, before we move on to some...
Hey, how's this position of the sun, the size of the window, and the little bit that I'm wearing? Like, I'm
perfect.
Cooking. Burning cows like no tomorrow.
You're glowing.
That's schwitzing.
Tell us, what is next for White Fox? What are you excited about? What are you building? What are you evolving over the next couple of years?
I think the exciting thing is... we broke a big revenue milestone, and we're tracking now to probably do 45 to 50. And I looked back 3 years ago and we're sitting at just under 7. So for me, like, that type of growth is incredible. And the offices that are being led by these agents, their lives are changing. Like, I'm seeing people that were working at a franchise or working at a small boutique, and now they're buying crazy properties and going on amazing trips. And building profiles in their city for being high performers, and that's an amazing feeling. It's crazy. I'm speaking at like events and like I'm on TV, like all these weird things are happening, which are very surreal, and I don't take it for granted at all. I've just returned from Dubai, and for me, the goal is to have 50 offices that we own, majority of, in 5 countries by 2030, and that involves 30 odd across Australia, 10 to 12 across New Zealand, a few in the Middle East, 3 in the Middle East, 2 in Asia, 1 in London, and another 2 in Europe, depending on where the relationship takes us. If we do that, we become the first privately owned global luxury real estate brand in the world. And I don't think there's many people that can say that they've done something for the first time. And I really want to pull that together, and it's going to happen. I've got no doubt about it. I just got the approval yesterday that our kids got enrolled into school in Dubai, and I'm communicating that with the team. I've appointed 2 people that will step into GM roles for the West Coast of Australia and the East Coast. New Zealand's a smaller operation, which we can still handle. I'll still be CEO of the entire group. It's not hard laying flat, flying business for 12 hours once every 6 weeks, so it ain't that bad. But again, I've never had my brain pulsate more, not only from the amount of drinks that I had at the Royal Atlantis on Friday night, but also the cracking of the code, the legal, the accounting, the whole system of learning a new country is incredible. And seeing my team in HQ, the CFO, the Chief of Staff, my EA, and people sort of bring their brain power together to how we can still have WHITEFOX in the Middle East is amazing. Sitting with the portals, and they're saying, you can't do black and white, and then saying, fine, I'm not going to use you. And then the bigger people coming in and saying, okay, we'll talk us through it, and then showing examples in New Zealand, showing examples in Melbourne, and pitching to retain our identity. Unbelievable. And just saying, I'm not going to use you. And then them coming back and saying, all right, we'll allow it. Like, just, they're little wins. Like, this is what people don't realise. When you're a business owner, you love the little wins. You love them because it's the combination of those little wins that actually builds you into a champion and builds your company into a reputable brand. So, yeah, I think for us, we tackle this Middle East. We were originally going to the UK, so I got my British passport. I got all those different things thanks to the mum. And all of a sudden, I've got a 10-year visa and I'm a citizen of Dubai at the moment. It's wild.
It's so exciting, though. That's a really great place to be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of eyeballs on it, and we'll be the first major, Australian brand that is there. So anyone that ends up going to the Middle East, what I love is that we're going to be able to be the voice of Australia, and I know what's going to happen. It's going to open the floodgates to more Aussie brands coming over, and I'm happy. The pie's big enough for everyone, and I'm happy to help anyone if they want to come there.
Well, on that note, I'm sure we've got some members that have some questions that they want to ask you, so we'll jump straight into the Q&A section.
And well done on those questions. They were amazing. And great interviewer.
Well, you're fantastic. So very easy to interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's got a question for Marty?
I've got a question. Mine. We are looking to expand to Dubai or Middle East.
You'll fit right in. You look amazing. What is your background?
Pakistani.
There you go. A lot of Pakistanis there.
Yeah, a lot of them. How did you choose, like you said, you just got the 10-year visa into Dubai. Why did you choose Dubai and not Saudi?
Dubai for me, after expanding onto the Gold Coast last year, if you look at the Gold Coast and you look at Dubai, they're the same. They're both coastal towns. Did anyone know that Dubai is a full coastal town? It's a fishing village. Like, I didn't even know that. They're made famous because of pearls. So for me, looking at the structure from a geography perspective, it was so similar to the Gold Coast that it made sense. It was the Gold Coast on steroids. And what actually happened, remember how I said that we were going to the UK? I was working on a UK deal for a long time, and that's still in play. But I went for a dinner on the Gold Coast. Gemelini's, Mermaid Beach. Anyone ever eaten there? How good's Gemelini's? So I'm sitting at Gemelini's, and my business partner says, oh, you got to meet my best mate, Mark. I was like, who's Mark? And he goes, oh, my best mate. He actually lives in Dubai. I was like, random? I was like, is he from the Gold Coast? And he goes, yeah. I was like, okay, sweet. So Mark Scheuer walks in, sits down, and he's just a legend. Charismatic, good-looking, full of knowledge, great storyteller, massive fucking banana palms. And I said, mate, when did you move to Dubai? And he goes, 2007. I was like, whoa, full like kitty litter. And he's like, yeah, bro, kitty litter. Like, there wasn't much there. And I was like, and what do you do? And he goes, I'm a structural engineer, civil engineer. And I work with all the biggest developers and blah, 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 blah. We just hit it off. And at the end, he goes, you should come. I'll introduce you to a whole bunch of people, developers, and you'll see after that one trip, you'll want to come. So anyway, most people get given a clue and they do fuck all with it. I get given a clue and I get up my magnifying glass and I start looking. So I went over there and it blew my mind. I met some incredible people and Scheuer delivered. Scheuer opened up some crazy doors and I ended up getting a golden visa in 2 days because of my profile, because of what I've been doing here. And again, the people at the top there in the government, they can make a decision. And they made a decision. And I was very thankful for that. And that trip was about seeing what it was like, seeing how Mark and I got along, and meeting these people and getting that ticket. The next trip was the trip that we've just been on, where I actually took 8 staff with me, took my wife, and I went a little bit deeper. And it was about, okay, now if we do this, where are we? Let's check the office. Let's dig. Secured an office, locked in my partnership with Scheuer, and said, and there's 3 people now that are partners in WHITEFOX at a HQ level within a region. CFO, Rob Gray, who's the #1 developer in Australia at the moment, owns Greyer, Queensland, and now Scheuer. And what a partner does is they have to have the ability to open doors and bring the magic. If you're not an agent generating revenue, right, then you've got to be something pretty special. And this guy's special. So, we're having meetings with the biggest people in radio, like Chris Fade. We're going to boxing events. We've got ringside tables. We've got this, we've got that. So for me, it just made sense that there can be someone that lives there, that knows it, that can open doors, because once they're open, I know how to shut them. I know how to close them. And then you go. So again, it's a very organic expansion, but that country, whilst it's not a democracy, is so clear on what it's doing. It's so clear on what it will give back its citizens. It is unlike any place I've ever seen. I went to New York in June to research New York. I sat with Ryan Serhant, he was on my podcast. I met agents, and guess what? Can't do it. Way too hard. Maybe in the future, but Dubai made everything easy. Dubai made it possible for people like us to go do business. Now, 70% of our revenue comes from outside of Victoria. And the reason why we own all the offices, majority shareholder, is because we run the back end of every office out of Toorak. Now, why am I paying 30% tax on that? Again, not that I'm moving HQ there, but why not expand that vision and look at doing something long-term where you are possibly based out of there? Did that answer your question?
Great question, Mona.
Cracker.
Does anyone else have a question?
Yeah, I believe. I really like what you said about the tiers of consultant, or the tiers of agents business. Because I work in recruitment, so there's kind of a synergy, and I want to.
Yeah.
I actually want to recruit a team in 2026, so that's genius, and I'm going to copy that.
Do you want to know the tiers?
Yeah, the 1 to 7.
Yeah, so 1 to 7. So tier 1 is less than 2 years experience, doing less than $250,000. Tier 2, 250 to 500. Tier 3, 500 plus. Tier 4, they get a title, associate director. So what they are, they're great performers in the marketplace, but they may not be good managers. Because that's the thing. You've got people that know how to score goals, but they don't want to fucking do anything else. They need to be looked after as well. And you load them up with responsibilities, and guess what? After a year, they buckle, resent grows because they're not delivering back to you, and you've read the play wrong.
How do so say? I used to live in Hawkesbury, by the way, so I used to see you.
How good was that sign on the side of the bit? So we had an office in Hawkesbury that said, Hawkesbury, what you say when you don't want to say Paran or Toorak.
Yeah, I used to see you walking around down Malton Road. Anyway.
You went past one of the huddles.
If you were recruited, and I don't know, someone from, say, Jealous Craig or Marshall White, so a more traditional agency, how would they respond in that tiers of your new structure that want the same things? That's very different.
Well, yeah, because they base their business off building pods and essentially what they do is they want for the big rider to take on wages to make them stickier. Because essentially they think, and we've hired a lot of people from these offices and they've gone and exploded at White Fox. They've been really high performers where they've been, but one of them will be a Dylan Francis who had $330,000 worth of wages sitting on his shoulders, riding $2 million a year in fees, and he felt sticky because he's responsible for all these people. Now he's doing probably just under $3 million with 4 or 5 suburb records. Had never sold a property over $3 million because the biggest shareholders always want to protect that because they've got territories. So when you don't have territories, right, you become a lot looser with revenue. You don't have restrictions. So it's going to be hard to sort of implement that type of stuff when their business models are to make agents feel like they've got to employ all these people under them. So, separately, we can always talk privately and I can give you some ideas on if I were to be an owner in that business, how I could recruit. Because, yeah, there are benefits. Like, White Fox isn't the greatest agency on the fucking planet. It's the greatest agency for the type of thinker that wants to be in our business. There's Marshall White agents that will not leave no matter what I say. And there's Kane Byrne agents that will not leave no matter what I say. So you just got to get your pitch right.
They're probably not the ones that you want in your business.
No, because what they'll be is they'll either be particular order takers for a particular niche of the transaction. They might just be a buyer's agent or something. For us, I want to build very free thinkers that can be very good at everything that is within the deal. So that when someone asks them a question, they don't go, let me come back to you. Let me check with such and such. How about just give the fucking answer? That's what I want. I want answers. Yeah, just teach them how to give the answer.
Do you have any more questions?
Off piece, happy to help.
Yeah, so in a sales environment that you're in, a lot of goals, a lot of pressure, I guess, a lot of revenue targets, etc., that typically come to that territory. How do you help the sales team, the broader team, you've given us some clues already, stay centred, enjoy their life, not get too caught up in that, and with pressure and...
Here's the deal. You fucking can't please everyone. You just can't please everyone. So with teams, what works for one may not work for the other. But are the pillars the same? Are they nailing the sales meetings? Are they nailing those huddles? Is there value? Have you given them opportunity? So for me, the only people that talk to me are my partners. So if you're a tier 5 or above, you can call me. If you're a tier under, you have to go through my EA or you have to go through your sales director first. So you've got to build filters before you get fucking brain damage. Then those people that are running teams, they have to understand how to budget. You got a target, but you got a budget. You got 2 metrics. The target is what we all want, to have a Christmas party where you fly all 130 people in like what we're doing next Thursday. You all get shit-faced together. Then there's the budget. What keeps us a head above ground and what sends us broke. And you've got to run both those and you've got to hit them every single month. The communication. Because if something doesn't happen, it only takes 3 months for shit to fall totally apart. And 3 months goes like that. So what we have, there's different communication lines. There's the sales meeting, there's the huddle. Then as a CEO, I've got my daily email, which also gets shared on LinkedIn. I write an email every day so that they see that I'm present. So even when I'm in Dubai, I still write that fucking email. So you can't come back at me and say I'm not got my finger on the pulse. The email goes out. The monthly town hall, I run and speak. And if I've got the camera crew there, I'll do a Sunday WHITEFOX Weekly. I've got like this fucking tune. It's like a news anchor. And if I haven't got it, it still goes out, but it's static. Then once a month, there's a sales director meeting where every one of them, it's a virtual huddle where every one of them can spill the beans. Then, if they pull aside during the week and say that something wasn't right or we let them down, or dude, why did you not raise that in the fucking in the monthly directors meeting? Oh, I didn't. Well, then, dude, don't talk about it. So during the month, you're fully focused on revenue, and then once a month, air your dirty laundry. And do you know what? I'm so confident that we're going to fix it. Air it in front of everyone. Let them know maybe where we fucked up. Let them, because guess what? It means that we won't stuff up for them. So you got to be so raw and ready to take a punch in front of everyone, which went back to the days at Wilson and Century 21, at that 25-seat table, where you're like, oh, fuck, that hurt, but okay, I'm not going to let it happen again. Yeah, so I hope that answered your question.
That's a great answer.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to get to the point where there's no confusion. And trust me, people need to be told things 3 and 4 times.
You said 70% of your bets outside are big. What's your observation around hybrid working, and particularly you're now locked down the state of Victoria down here, and how that's all panning out with the culture of work?
It's a shit show. I don't allow anyone to work from home. Can't build a culture, can't build team morale, can't crack codes quickly. Fact. You can build relationships digitally. You can get to know someone, but you don't know them. We're lucky that we hire very good communicators that like social. If you're someone that's a bit shyer, or you're someone that can't express themselves in a big way, digital is hard. So whilst we might be able to create a relationship digitally because we're agents and they're all mad, it's very hard for other services and other professional services, accountants, lawyers, whatever it might be. I think it's really difficult. Melbourne's a shit show, to be honest. It's a beautiful city. It's got so much going for it, and it's just been run into the ground. And I hate the feeling every night. I've just spent $30,000 upping my security at home, which is extraordinary, because the amount that I travel, I fear for my kids. I don't want them to see anything and experience trauma. But what people aren't talking about, like they're giving all these kids such a bad rap, these 14, 15, 16-year-olds, running around with machetes, giving them such a bad, I'm going off course here, giving them such a bad rap. But also, why isn't anyone, and should they all be locked up? Should they be? Fuck no. These kids were 11, 12 and 13 seeing their fucking mum and dad drink, piss and have fights, and they're sitting on screens and they're going onto their parents' iPads looking at shit that they fucking shouldn't see. They've radicalised themselves in those years of being stuck at home from 10, 11, 12. So now that they're out, they're pissed off. It's these kids that are pissed off at our leaders for turning them into psychopaths because of what they were having to witness at home with parents. You don't have to have a licence to have a kid. There's a lot of people that have got kids that should not have kids. Yeah, and these kids that are now running around with machetes are the unfortunate result of what's occurred from our leaders. So, I actually feel for these kids. These kids have seen things that none of us, I think, have seen, God forbid. So it's a major, major problem. We're so cooked here, it's not funny. And this state still has the best events, the best restaurants, the best European feel, the best layout. I can get to fucking Footscray from Toorak to Hawthorn in the one day. You can't do that in Sydney. Do you know what I mean? And we've got grit. We're not that super showy, but we've got a bit of spunk. What we don't have is the right leadership, and we've fucked our generation that's meant to be taking over. Fucked them. Maybe we post that reel.
It's going to go viral.
Well, maybe it should, because I actually feel for these kids. They've seen shit that's really messed them up. And it's all happened at home, which is even worse.
Absolutely. A big thank you, a big round of applause for Marty, please, because that was more insight. So thank you for being generous answers.
Yeah, and you can share my details with everyone if anyone wants to reach out. I've always got time.
Marty, thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.